Blessings of America as a center square.
Wow, a rushable
That
center.
is going
A
to be
very, very
interesting.
rushable center. Yeah, whoever gets that will have a nice advantage here on the board. A few others that are rushable and have some synergy. We've got Bloodfiend's Arm with Kindred Cookbooks, which are both in, the same area. We've got DLC Talismans, which again synergizes with those other two because there is a talisman over in Prospect Town. Death Knight, takes a little while to get to, but isn't too bad. But after that, Backhand Blade is a square. So I expect that we will definitely see at least one, if not both players, go for Backhand Blades, foregoing the Katana in this particular round. So this is interesting. The beginning almost feels a little more set than in other matches, where I expect both of them will rush for Blessings of America because it is a center square, and I expect at least one of them has to go for that Bloodfiend's Arm and Kindred Cookbooks, which will be a very, very big play right there. Maybe they split. Maybe one goes for Blessings while the other goes for Bloodfiend's Arm. That could be interesting, but a lot of very sort of set early game squares that I expect both players to go for.
This is a very mean board, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of early game stuff here. I mean, you have hand-to-hand, you've got Blood Fiends, you got Backhand Blades, Blessings of America, you got the Cookbooks, you got Queen Line and Bellerot, that's pretty quick as well. You got DLC Talismans, that's pretty quick. Hefty Pots isn't too slow either here. So you got like almost half the board is semi-early game. It's a very mean board because after Blessings of America, it's very much a game of coin flip simulator, as you don't know which one the next person is really going to be going for. And I think it's going to be a bit of a tough early game for either of these players if the other one just keeps sniping the other one over and over again. And we are still currently setting up here 60 seconds for these players. Aggie already fully set up with 1 minute left to spare, going to be able to have enough time to read the board and make some good calls here. Adolf here almost ready himself as well. And yeah, Churchwater District going to be here. I think this row 3 might be really mean if you are able to set this up correctly. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, this whole row 3 is really mean. Because let's say you get Blessings of America into Bloodfiend's Arm, and then you get to Drain the Water. You can then make your way towards 4 perfume bottles while killing the 2 hippos on the way to Jory. So that way you can work towards that Frenzy perfume bottle that is there as well in the Abyssal Woods. So this road 3, kind of a mean little line. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of a mean little line there. But also the column 3 as well. Just pushing that giant hand maybe onto your opponent could be really nice. Rushing the rest of those squares could be also a nice little pressure point as well. So this could be a tough match regardless, depending on what is being picked here. And I don't really know, but here we go. Match started, and let's get it going. Oh, yeah, there is a... Let me change that real quick. Oh, never mind. We can't change that. Yeah, that's fine.
As you mentioned, both of those rows, row 3 and column 3, both go through that middle square, Blessing of America. So whoever gets that, I think, is going to have a huge pressure advantage. Of course, middle square is always the most advantageous because it goes through 4 different lines. It goes through row 3, column 3, and both diagonals. So, if you get that, you cut off your opponent's pressure on 2 of those fastest lines on the board, and you get to possibly set up for 2 of them yourself. So I love to see Adolf going directly for it. I think this would be my play as well, is to go directly for the Blessing of America. It looks like he's even skipping the Skidoo here. He might even recognize, hey, this is such an important square. I'm going to care about nothing else and only get it. And I think that's a good play. Aggie, on the other hand, going for the DLC Talismans, which, is a great one to go for as well. Aggie is maybe going to go for having, 2 or 3 squares in the time that Adolf is going for that one middle square. But, either way, this is going to be a very interesting start.
Yeah, this is a very interesting rush where Aggie is just rushing Talismans and Backhand Blades, where Adolf already rushed that Blessings of America, and now I think just rushing for that Grave Stone skip here, straight into Fort Reprimand, really, really pushing that Blessings of America, which I think is a really good call here from Adolf. Not necessarily thinking, hey, Aggie might rush this, so I have to just bluff it and go for something else, but instead just calling it and being like, you know what, I want this, and I'm going to go for that square specifically. Aggie, interestingly enough, not pushing the Blessings of America, however, going for more or less progression beyond that. And I'm really wondering how that's going to play out for him here as well.
Yeah, Adif having a little trouble on this skip here. It is a tricky one because you're sort of standing on points in the geometry that the game does not expect you to stand on, so it can be tricky to get it, but he's finally got it there. And yeah, the only thing is, Adef has got nothing else for it. He will have map progress towards Talier, of course, and towards Fort of Reprimand, but he will not have a weapon yet. And he won't even have the Scorched Ruins in order to get a weapon quickly. So he is giving up a lot of that early progress that you might want of getting your weapon set up, getting ready for other things in order to get it. I still think, if it's me, I think I like Adef's play a little more. I think that center square is important enough to warrant this, but he will have to do some catching up after he does get it. I might have grabbed the Grace here a little closer to Ancient Dragon Man. It is a long way back around later. But yeah, again, if you think, hey, I need to rush this, then making sure you get it is very important.
No, I definitely agree. I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out. Yeah, definitely a huge rush here from Aggie when it comes to those talismans. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Getting that diagonal blocked at the very least and kind of activating column run row 1 would be really, really nice. And honestly, it does play into that Bloodfiend's arm and backhand blades, so that Florisax and Consort Radon are the only things left over. That Consort Radon pressure point might be a really, really big thing here they could play into.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Consort Radon on the board is always an interesting one where it's like, oh, that's so late, nobody would ever go for it until it's the final square, and yet if you can set up a line with it where either you can then go to it yourself or force the opponent to go to it, it can be surprisingly almost helpful to have such a late square in one of the lines that you're going for.
Yeah, I mean, we said that last match too, right? With the Aged One's Exaltation Talisman. We're like, yeah, this is a really late game square, and yet it was rushed in the first 30 minutes and was a bingo threat and a bingo line from Tom. So, like, yeah, there is definitely those moments where it's like, oh, this could be a really late game square that could just be a pressure point and not necessarily something that people rush. But if you have the line, honestly, might not be the worst idea. However, in this case, obviously having to kill Romina and Mesmer to get to Consort Radon and then also killing Letta companions, maybe that is a thing where you like push into majority instead and don't necessarily rush it right away, and just go for easier squares instead. There it is though, Adef grabbing that center square now. Grabbing Blessings of America, and Aggie just giving a quick little nod there, being like, yeah, I was expecting that, and kind of playing around that is going to be a huge pickup, though, for Adef still, for that board presence.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see the compensation that Aggie has is not that great compared to Adef, both being in a square lead and such an important center square. Aggie does have his backhand blades already, and he has a few of those DLC talismans, but even by the time that he finishes off those talismans, I think Adef could maybe get his weapons set up as well and just be in a clearly advantageous position where Adef might have a better square and might be equally set up. So I really like the way that Adef has played this start.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to be seeing here the Flame Drake Talisman potentially from Aggie and Fort Reprimand. Although he is jumping out now, so maybe not going for that 4th talisman here, but maybe going for that Shattered Stone talisman instead near Morth Ruins. As you did see that Blessings of America was marked, so he's assuming that he's not contested on talismans and can take his time going for map progression instead. So I think that's a really good call here. Being like, you know what, I don't have to go through Fort Reprimand. There's no reason for me to do that. Let me go ahead and go to Morth Ruins instead, get a little bit more map presence, but also grabbing that Shattered Talisman on the way.
Yeah, and now Adef has to go back through these ruins that he passed right by earlier, but did not get that grace. So now he's got to redo all this progress here. He might, yeah, it looks like he's gonna grab the Hefty Cracked Pot along the way. Then he's going for the talisman as well. So Aggie probably still grits this, and so this might be a little bit of wasted time from Adef, but you don't really know that, and as you're passing through the area, well, now he knows that. I would still grab the Blade of Mercy. It is a very powerful talisman, so I don't dislike this as a play from Adef. Regardless, the one talisman you grab is probably the most powerful one in the entire DLC, so you're kind of happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, like mentioned, this board has a lot of early game, so the players are going to be rushing those. I think it's maybe a little greedy from 8F to be like, hey, I'm going to get Blessings of America, and I'm going to work towards Talismans on top of that.
Yeah.
I do think, however, like on the off chance that you did snipe your opponent on Blessings of America, at least starting to grab them, I think is super fair, though, on top of that. So not necessarily the worst idea. And as you mentioned, Blade of Mercy is great to have in your inventory, even if you don't have a square that is necessarily supporting that. Aggie here now making his way towards Mother, going to be making the Church of Drain the Water as maybe a nice block on row 3 would be a good call.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And 8F might be heading towards the Great Katana here. I did not see him grab the backhand blades, so he may be giving up that square as well for the backhand blades. Yeah, it looks like he is heading towards the Great Katana, so he probably is just more comfortable with that as a weapon. I think they are about equally strong with backhand blades on the board. That seems like the obvious pick, but if 8F says, hey, I'm not going for a boss early, so I know I'm not going to get that square anyway, might as well go with the comfort pick of the Great Katana. He's heading towards the Manfly village over here. Is there something that he's looking for in this area?
No, I'm not sure. He is grabbing the Grace for some reason. Let me just double check here to make sure I'm not missing anything. Probably for the Belarot jail for the 3 hefty pots that are inside.
Oh, yes, for
so
later. That
those
makes
later.
a lot of sense.
Getting that Great Katana upgrade now for himself. I don't know. Are the backhand blades already upgraded for Aggie, or did he just grab them?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm almost positive he already bought the upgrade materials for them at least.
Yeah.
So if he does need to upgrade them, I don't imagine it would take him very long. If I were him, I would not have gone back to upgrade just yet because he hasn't fought anything yet. But I expect we'll see that probably shortly after he drains the water. He'll probably start wanting to be ready to fight things soon after that. But yeah, it looks like he's rushing for Drain the Water first.
I think a good call here from 8F would be going for that Blood Fiend's Arm next. That way he can block out that column 1, as Aggie most likely is going to be going with those backhand blades. And then Aggie, in return, going to be draining that water. So both of them kind of blocking each other's lines, which I think is a really good call from both of them. Being like, hey, most likely this is going to happen. That row 3 is dangerous, or that column 1 is dangerous, and responding each already to their opponent's lines, I think is a great call.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And if 8F does go for the Blood Fiend's Arm, which is what it looks like he's doing, he does also get one of those Kindred cookbooks. So he might have an advantage there on a second square as well as he does it. Another thing to mention here is there is Kill a Boss with backhand blades only, but there's also Kill a Boss with hand-to-hand only. So using those backhand blades against Dane is a very powerful thing to do and gets you that advantage on killing a boss hand-to-hand only. A little bit of synergy there that I would love to see Aggie especially take on. 8F, I think, it'd be a little harder to kind of set up for that, but I could see that as being something that Aggie does after draining the water here.
Yeah. No, 100%. I am curious to see who's going to be rushing the hefty pots, because I do feel like that at some point is going to be a heavily contested square, especially with that column 3 action that could happen with that hand-to-hand that you just mentioned. I want to see that very soon. I do think that row 5 could be kind of interesting as well with those Kindred cookbooks into Queeline Belarot. That could be very interesting, especially with Dancing Lion being on the board with the kill 1 boss of each bear, lion, and hippo, and also Dancing Lion itself as a square. So yeah, that could be just overall very interesting. Row 2, column 3 for that Dancing Lion, and then the back up top right corner of kill 1 boss of each bear, lion, hippo. So yeah, I don't know. That could be just overall a nice combo.
That does also synergize with kill 2 hippos. So definitely something that you could do to just kind of go for these animal named bosses of Dancing Lion into hippo, into a second hippo, into one of the red bears. Could be a nice sort of 3 square synergy over there.
8F seeing that Drain the Water was marked, feeling pretty comfortable now, I think, about this Blood Fiend's Arm. And there it is, Aggie now going for that upgrade where Adef now is going to be going for the good old Blood Fiend's kill. Gets a really nice jumping R2, R1 stagger on that Blood Fiend. Grabs it, gets the hell out of there, and maybe goes for a quit out here so he can go for that selling like ASAP.
I would go for the cookbook here, and that does look like what he is doing here. I don't think he feels that contested since he saw Drain the Water. Like, it's not like Aggie would grab the Blood Fiend's arm, then drain the water, then sell it. So he knows he's got some time here. So going for the cookbook, I think, is the absolutely correct play in this situation.
He does have to be a little bit careful, though, because you can grab that cookbook on the way to drain the water, but also grab that cookbook on the way to Morth Ruins, so that it might not be as free as he imagines. But it is free. But there could be the thought of maybe it is a little bit contested at the very least.
Yep. Aggie now going for the Blood Fiend's arm, it looks like, and so Adef has just sold it. Aggie may pivot now, or he may say, well, I still think I can beat you to the cookbooks. I think I've got more progress into Morth, which is a little bit closer to the final cookbook, but we'll see. Or he might just go to Bellarat, because he is still along this way here, along this path. So we'll see if he sticks with that, or if he pivots off once he gets to the Grace.
I'm telling you, that dancing line, Queen line, and Bellarat combo, really looking kind of useful here in the situation for Aggie. Could activate that row 1, but also block that column 3. And he's starting to just like block every single line from Adef on top of that, blocking that row 1, blocking that row 3 right now. That dancing line also blocking that row 2 then, and then he blocks 1, 2, and 3 in columns as well. So overall, just like really blocking everything else. Like I mentioned, Adef maybe getting that center square, but the squares that Aggie is picking is pretty much reducing the effectiveness of that center square.
Yeah, that is a very good point. If Aggie gets kill a dancing lion,
you and me both, man. We're
it's tough. If he gets both kill a dancing lion and kill Queen line in Bellarat, he will have blocked 4 rows, 4 columns, and all he would need is burn the ceiling tree to block off every one of Adef's bingos except for that diagonal from bottom left to top right. So he is, if he goes through the Bellarat plan, he's got a very good chance of forcing this game into a majority, which, is not a bad plan for him. I think Aggie is very comfortable being a majority player. At least that's the way that I've seen him play is, he'll go for a line if you give it to him, if there's the opportunity. But, it seems like he's also very, very comfortable taking those games long, taking it to majority and just saying, hey, I've got experience. I've been here before. I'm going to beat you eventually on just getting 1 square better, having 1 less incident, having 1 better pathing and a snipe, and getting those.
Yeah, and there's the cookbooks, by the way, for Adef now, making his way towards Highland Cross, going to be getting some access. And here it is, that Queen and Bellarat for Aggie, going to be grabbing maybe also that Shriek of Sorrows DLC Ash of War just to have it. I don't think it's currently on the board. Doesn't really matter. But I'm not going to lie, Shriek of Sorrow could be used a little bit more in bingo overall. That as an Ash of War.
It is very powerful.
Wouldn't be the worst. The only thing that's a shame about it is you can't put cold on your weapon while having Shriek. It has to be occult.
Oh, yes. Yeah, for that reason, I might not do it otherwise. You can still get bleed on the weapon with it, right? Just not
no,
cold.
I don't think so. I'm not too sure, though. But yeah, for
definitely
that reason,
could not do it with backhand blades. Then that's for sure.
And for that reason, Mitch is out on the good old Shriek of Sorrow. It is a cool Ash of War, though. I do have to say, it is a nice Ash of War. I do think, however, now Adef kind of setting himself up here to possibly get sniped on Queen, as he is currently entering Bellarat himself.
Yeah. But if he sees that and he goes immediately for Dancing Lion, we may have ourselves a race. And that would be a very, very interesting race to see if both of them end up there. Aggie looks like still be a little bit ahead towards Dancing Lion because Adef is still probably around 30 seconds away from that grace that Aggie already has. But by no means is it a guarantee that Aggie will win this race because, they have different weapons. They've got different amounts of setup. So if Adef is just a little bit faster here, he could maybe do it.
This could also be a thing, honestly, of like Aggie showing like, hey, I have Queenland and Bellerot, and maybe pivoting, thinking that he's got priority on it. And up here it is, though. Adef already pivots out. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to go for hand-to-hand instead.
Yeah, it looks like we've kind of got the opposite of that situation.
Yeah.
Where instead, Aggie is continuing, saying, I've got priority and I'm going to use it. And Adef is saying, well, he's got priority. I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yep. It's always a little awkward when you say it, and as soon as that happens, the opposite happens. But hey, here we are. Okay. Words.
Words.
Shadowpot going to be killed here. Going to go for the golden. Jesus. Okay, Mitch. You know what? How about you do? You got
the
this.
golden horn tender. He's got the golden horn tender as well as the Skidoo fragment from Adef, which is going to give him a ton of runes once he can find a big kill here. So if he heads for something like, I mean, Romina isn't on the board, but Romina does get you some eventual access to things. If he used the golden horn tender on that, he would have a huge amount of runes, so many levels, that he could get there. You're also got to look at the eventual possibility of killing a remembrance boss with a remembrance weapon. But Dancing Lion, not really going to help you out with that. And there's also kill a remembrance boss Hitless. So I would not be surprised if we saw somebody go for Gaius, kill him Hitless, and then take Gaius's weapon and go kill almost anything else with it. I might say Romina to set up for the eventual consort Radon. But yeah, his sword lance is very, very powerful. Almost even worth entirely swapping to over the Great Katana in some cases.
Yeah, this is going to be
Great start.
very interesting. I think the call from Adef to pivot here was really, really smart. I think him just recognizing it, being like, you know what, I can go for Hefty Pots. I can go for still Drain the Water. I mean, the Drain the Water was taken already from Aggie, but at the very least, getting the same map progression and feeling better about his overall map presence, I think is a really good call here. Yeah, I just overall, I think the pivot was a really smart choice. And he mentioned, I think yesterday as well, that feeling more confident with being okay with pivoting as part of his growth as a player himself. So seeing him actually putting that into action, I think is really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I love to see this from Adef just saying, hey, I need to catch up in map progress. It does look like Adef is probably going to fall behind by 1 square here because Aggie has already gone through this same progress of draining the water that Adef kind of needs to catch up in. And by that time, Aggie should have the Dancing Lion dead. So, Adef saying, hey, 1 square behind is not that much. Easy to come back from as long as you play well from there. And Aggie saying, hey, I'll have this 1 square advantage. I've still got the map lead of getting into Shadowkeep. So they're both, I think, feeling good about going into this mid-game mostly even and coming up with plans from here. We don't see any lines that are particularly set up right now. We've talked about some that can be threats, but neither of them have entirely set up those threats just yet. So they both appear to be going for the majority at the moment.
Ooh, yeah, Aggie taking a lot of damage here, though, from this Dancing Lion, getting frostbitten. As this Dancing Lion might be moving into the next element in just a moment here after this attack, maybe going into a bit of a wind transition. Pausing and champing, as they say. And there it is. Goes into the wind motion now. This should be a little bit easier for Aggie. I think the wind one is probably the easiest out of all of the elements for the Dancing Lion. There's no status really. It's just physical damage that's happening here.
Yeah, funny enough, the wind even ends the combo, like the big swirly combo early, just doesn't do the final breath attack and all of that. So in some ways, some of his attacks are even easier even than the no element phase.
It's very, very silly. But it goes straight into lightning now, really stalling out this fight for Aggie. This is definitely taking a little bit longer, I think, than Aggie expected. Whereas Adef now in Churchwater District, getting pretty close to about the same map progression as Aggie did. And maybe even a little bit farther beyond, getting that back section grace. I don't think Aggie went all the way up to the elevator, so that's something now that he would have a little bit priority on.
Yeah, I don't remember if Aggie got that. I think Aggie should have if he didn't. But yeah, definitely Adef will be at least caught up here, if not slightly ahead.
I do think if Adolf would have challenged the dancing line, I think he would have actually won this race.
He may have, yeah. This is a very long fight from Aggie. Hopefully no incidents here. Aggie has just healed up, and he's saying, hey, he's back in the lightning. I can maybe wait out some of the attacks and just go for the safe opportunities. And he should have it right here.
There it is. There it is.
That was rough.
Going to be marking that dancing lion and kill a boss with backhand blades. That is a really nice combo they just pulled off. 5-3 now in squares.
Oh, yeah.
Not really pushing any bingo lines necessarily, but blocking a lot of things like we just mentioned. He just blocked every single row and has blocked almost every single column besides column 4 now.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, all he needs to do is block column 4 and block the diagonal. That is bottom left to top right, and he will have blocked absolutely everything. He could do that in one square with the furnace golem. I don't necessarily love that as his next opportunity, but he can keep that in mind as, hey, if in emergency situation I need to block everything, I need to force majority, that is an option for him. Looks like he might be going for Rolana here. Killer Remembrance boss Hitless. Is perhaps what he's thinking. I don't love Rolana as a choice for that if he does go for that. But I can't think of why else he would be heading in this particular direction towards Castle Ensis.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either. Maybe just grabbing that Skidoo fragment. Also a hand-to-hand here,
yeah.
For Dane. He needs the
yes.
he needs the gesture to even do that fight. And then maybe going for a hippo here.
Oh, yes. The Skidoo into the hippo. That's definitely not a bad plan. It's only one of the 2 hippos, but Aggie already has the lion, so if he gets the 2 hippos, he's just a bear away from yet another square, and Aggie might start to pull away with a bit of a lead in terms of majority, with Adef not having a lot of opportunities to come back with a line, so we might be forced into a majority game that Aggie is pulling away with a little bit.
We do see, however, Hippo here coming out from Adef as well, so this is going to be kind of interesting. Maybe they're both eyeballing. Oh. Okay, that was a little...
That would have been a weird warp if you activate the elevator and then warp away.
Yeah,
but,
I think it's just like thinking, you know, in his head, maybe like, okay, maybe I should go here next and just visualizing it with the map. But a little bit of a head start here now from Adef on the Hippo. We'll be able to do hand-to-hand afterwards as well. No, it grabs the Grace and does port here. Maybe finishing Hefty Pots first.
Yeah, Hefty Pots is certainly, you know, a strong pickup here. One that does not take too much time, although you do kind of get yourself a little stuck in the jail. You have to lose all your runes to get out, but he doesn't have any runes to lose, so I think he's fine with doing that, and no reason to finish the jail here. So I think he looked in and he already had 2 of the Hefty Pots, so this should finish it here as long as he just collects the ones in the jail.
And here is the good old Hippo. Getting some nice RNG here for Aggie. Gets that little body slam.
Yeah.
Is a huge punishing window if you're able to stay next to his back feet. That way you're able to just constantly R1 before the slam even happens. You can go for a jumping R2 then, or go for just for a normal R1 combo. Here the spikes are coming in. Does get a nice stagger though during the animation. The spikes end just a little bit early.
Yeah, that was a dangerous one. He went for attacks. He did not even attempt to dodge those spikes. If he had not gotten a stagger on that hit, if it had taken 1 or 2 more, that could have...
Are you kidding, man?
Been the end of it? But that is the end of it anyway. Oh, the point blank grab. There's almost nothing you can do against that. Very, very unfortunate to see. When he's just a little bit low on life, for that to come out and finish him off, that sucks.
Yeah, the hungry Hippo does strike again. Does seem to be a pretty good defense animal if you think about it when you have your own castle. Just having a Hippo Rhinoceros hanging out.
Hedgehog also, you know, hybrid.
Yeah, like Porcupinus. That's exactly what they're called.
I agree. I think that's as good of a name as you could come up with.
100%. Adolf here are going to be attacking the good old shaman, as the shaman has a weird thing sometimes. If you do go for the chest first, it can fall down but grab you in the same animation and then pull you down to where you miss the hefty pot here. I feel like that should have been Adolf's 5th hefty pot already, unless I'm crazy.
No, that should be the 4th, because he hasn't yet gone through the sort of maze section where the final 2 are.
Because when there's 3 in Ballarat, though. Aren't there 3 hefty pots in Ballarat?
There are 2 in the maze section and that one that he got in the chest.
Oh, right. There's 2 down here. Right. That's fair.
Yes,
That's fair.
yes.
So he just has to grab 1 more down here, and then he's going to be at 5 because he did get those 2 already from Bonneville, and then got the other one from Scorched Ruins. So he had 3 before entering this jail here.
Yes.
Really quick fight here, though, from Aggie. Already back into the hippo fight and already killed the hippo as well. So just needs the red bear now to get that other corner square. Not grabbing the gray. It's going to go straight into Shadow Keep. Going to be grabbing maybe that first floor grace and possibly going for Dane right afterwards then. And then maybe hand-to-handing the red bear.
Oh, that could be an interesting idea. He could also go for the second hippo. That's kind of on the way to Jory. If he thinks that blocking that 4th column is a bit of a priority, but yeah, if he can get 1 more hippo and he can get a red bear, he will have all of the lines blocked off.
Oh, here it is though. Adolf now also in the specimen storehouse, going to be going straight towards the loft grace. Aggie still making his way towards that first floor grace in Shadowkeep. Adolf a little bit ahead when it comes to storehouse progression, but now it comes down to what do you exactly want to go for. I feel like hand-to-hand definitely should be pushed here very soon, as that is not too difficult of a square. But definitely comes down to what these players are feeling is a bigger priority.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the hand-to-hand, just for the fact that it takes 2 bosses, and the second boss that you kill, obviously Dane itself will be fine, but whatever the second boss is that you're killing is going to be a lot harder and a lot slower with it. So obviously you want to set that up with synergy, but if you have to do something like that on a difficult boss, such as Red Bear, I think Red Bear is a fairly difficult boss. We have seen some deaths on it already. You know, that I don't love it. If it was me as a comfort pick, I would not do hand-to-hand on Red Bear, but maybe they're more comfortable with it than I would be.
I'm not going to lie. In this case, honestly, hand-to-hand on Gaius would be the best idea, because you could get the Sanctified Whipblade, because it is strike damage, and Gaius is weak to Holy, so the hand-to-hand is a quick punishing weapon, and on top of that, having the Sanctified Whipblade for Holy damage, you would deal a lot of bonus damage versus Gaius in that specific scenario, and having Red Remembrance Boss with the Remembrance Weapon on the board on top of that would play into getting that Sword Lance.
Yeah, for me though, I think a better version of almost the same plan is to instead just kill Gaius hitless. You don't have to do the additional Dane. You still get a square, and I highly doubt that one of them is going to do hand-to-hand hitless Gaius. So for my money, I'd rather do Gaius hitless. I think that's going to be a faster version of killing Gaius and getting a square. And if you did Gaius hand-to-hand, you kind of lock yourself out of that Remembrance Boss hitless, because Gaius is the one that almost all players choose to do if they need to do something hitless.
I'm not going to lie. I've done it. Hand-to-hand Gaius, it's really easy hitless. It's really not that bad. You even get like a free Palm Blast when he does his phase 2 transition. You can fully charge that Palm Blast and do some really strong damage, but also some really strong poise damage. The hand-to-hand weapons really are not that bad, especially versus Gaius. So I don't think it's that big of a nerf, but we are seeing Gaius here now from Adolf, as he's going to be preparing for a potential hitless Gaius, as you just mentioned, with the Great Katana.
Yeah, I imagine if he gets hit, he will reset here. If Gaius is like 1 or 2 hits away, he might just say, I'll take it. I'll get the Remembrance Weapon. I'll go for that square instead. But I imagine if he gets hit anywhere before the phase transition, that he will reset and go for this again. And I imagine he'll play it very safe.
We do see here a good start already from Adolf, getting some dodges in. The damage not being too bad. It's like 900 per R1. For a piercing R1. I think, anyways. No, it's 400. Okay, never mind.
It's 400.
My
Every
eyes
2
do deceive
R1s
me.
gets you 900.
Yeah.
But that's still not bad. Oh,
Ooh.
terrible camera. Oh, and he does get hit because of it. Yep.
I would reset here. He does reset.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
that
does,
was
he
just
does.
terrible positioning. There's a second hippo now from Aggie, though, as you guys can see on the bottom here, going for that ancient Rao hippo on the way towards Romina. Going to be grabbing that 2 hippo square. Going to be kind of also notifying then Adef, like, hey, I already have a bear and a hippo. Sorry, I have a lion and a hippo ready for that corner square. You might have to race me to Red Bear here, and I don't think, you know, he has that time, nor the progression.
He could also just be.
Yeah, I imagine that Aggie is going to get that one, which will block off every single line that Adef could possibly have. So force this into a majority. Aggie himself is not really set up for any lines either. So I think both players are basically just going to say, hey, this is a majority game. That's okay. And, you know, do what they can to get those squares.
That's so annoying.
Adef here trying to go for the hitless. Sadly gets some rock pellets thrown at his face. And takes another hit, so he does opt to die just to make up for that. And there is the 2 hippos, from Aggie here now. Going for that red bear right afterwards, I believe. Oh, never mind. Going for Queeline first, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Queeline. Oh, that'll be for Iris of Grace. That's what it's for. Give an Iris of Grace. So if he does get Queeline here, he's got that all set up. He's already been in the Church Water District, so yeah, I'd say a good choice of a square here. He thinks he's ahead both in Lion and Hippo, so he doesn't really see any need to finish that off. Adef has not been putting any pressure on the Animals square.
This is really, really strong, though, from Adef in this case. If he does get that hitless, he is blocking that row 1, which is a little bit of a problem now. If Aggie does get that Iris of Grace into hand-to-hand with the Red Bear, which I think is the plan, that row 1 is looking very, very scary for sure.
Yeah, I don't expect that Aggie will really pressure on one of the lines. I expect that the reason that he has gone for all of these squares is just to block. Aggie, unfortunately, dying to Queeline, who is a tough NPC there, but he'll probably get it this next time. And Adef doing great on Hitless on Gaius so far. It looks like he will get the phase transition. I hope he knows the close range dodge. Yes. Oh, a little late.
Do you reset here is the question. Do you do it?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, he's not going for it. He's just going to finish.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate.
I don't know. I think after seeing 2 hippos marked, I would reset.
I think I would as well. But, you know, sometimes you just say, hey, I've gotten hit, 3-4 times already on this fight. Maybe this just isn't the fight for me to do this on. Maybe I need to not be so stubborn with it and instead, get the kill, get the remembrance weapon, move on, and not get myself stuck.
Just very, very unfortunate for sure. But maybe gets him the pacing that he needs to block some more things on this board here. A lot of Aggie's lines are just blocking and not necessarily progressing anything. But once he does get Queeline here with the Iris of Grace and also the Red Bear, that row 1, column 5 can be looking a little scary.
Yeah, Adef is definitely going to have to catch up in some squares while at the same time blocking what Aggie's doing, which could lead him into some tougher squares than he would want to do necessarily, right? Because once you know it's a majority game for yourself, you just want to go for the fastest squares, but if you have to do the ones that also block your opponent, that's could lead to some inefficiency that will allow your opponent to make up a lot of time on you and a lot of squares.
Yeah. Going to be a lot of money here now for Adef. 322,000 runes as he does pop that golden horn tender to make sure he's got a lot of money for the sword lance that he's probably going to be getting for Killer Remembrance boss or Remembrance weapon. The question is now, if he's not going to hitless Gaius, who is he going to hitless? Because for Aggie, Gaius is still up, and Gaius is one of the most picked Remembrance bosses for hitless, I would say, at this point. And that might be a little scary now with that row 1 starting to build more and more for Aggie. With Adef not having anything marked for the last almost 10 minutes now, Aggie doesn't really know exactly where the progression is going for Red Bear.
Yeah, Aggie just saying, hey, let me finish my plan. I'm just gonna continue on my plan. Haven't seen what ADEF is doing yet, so might as well do that until I see what ADEF is cooking up. And yeah, ADEF, I would love to see him do the Remembrance boss with a Remembrance weapon, also hitless. Although first here, it looks like he's getting the hand-to-hand from Dane. I hope he does not go for the triple. Actually, you can't. You can't do hand-to-hand and Remembrance weapons, so... interesting here. He's kind of setting up multiple weapons for bosses, but he's going to need to find bosses to actually use them on.
Yeah. This is looking a little tough here for ADEF, but if he does get this block, I do wonder who's going to hand-to-hand. Maybe Black Knight? Idrid?
Oh, yeah, not a bad plan. I see a lot of people also do Ancient Dragon Man in order to get access to that area. There is Bale while summoning Egon and Egon's Furled Finger, so if it were me, I'd probably rush over there to Ancient Dragon Man for a hand-to-hand. But we'll see what ADEF ends up choosing. Aggie doing great on this Red Bear. Again, we see these backhand blades just dominating on Red Bear. You know, I thought the Great Katana would be, like, better for him, but... man, these backhand blades just absolutely shred through that bear.
There is that Red Bear activating that row 1, column 5 that I was talking about, right? And yeah, here's the thing with like I mentioned, I think yesterday or last week, where the statuses / the effectiveness of the weapons really pull a lot of weight in the DLC. So if you have like Red Bear that's weak to slash, backhand blades are just going to do so much more damage than the Great Katana. You know, Gaius being weak to strike damage. If you have a strike weapon, it really does showcase a lot of damage difference between all the other weapons.
ADEF, I'm hoping, has not made the mistake that I think he has just made. ADEF just bought a full set of somber and non-somber stones, but Gaius's weapon is non-somber, and Dryleaf Arts is non-somber. I think he has just wasted his money on a full set of somber stones that is useless to him.
That is not good. I think he's going to see it just now. I think he maybe wasn't sure. Maybe which set what it was. Oh, no, never mind. That's the face of,
He sees now. Yep, he sees now. That is, yep, that is, it is, I think it is the only Remembrance weapon in the entire game that is non-somber.
Yeah.
At least it's the only one that I know of. There might be another one that's obscure, but it is the only one that is commonly used that is non-somber. And so, yeah, he has to go back and buy another set. This is going to cost him a lot of money and a lot of time having to travel back and forth. That is a very, very unfortunate
This is interesting, though, because, okay, so Aggie not going for Dane and not going for hand. I thought he was going to go for hand-to-hand there. Did get the Iris of Grace, though, for Queenline. And now going what seems to be for Ancient Dragon Man.
Ooh, yeah.
Maybe eyeballing that column
Ancient
too.
Dragon Man without hand-to-hand, I'm not... you could go for that column 2, but... you know what? Bale is a little bit long, and Death Knight, honestly, not the most rushable thing either. But maybe that's the whole point, is, hey, let me pressure ADEF and force ADEF to do this column that he almost certainly does not want to do.
Yeah.
But looks like ADEF has basically the same plan. I'm going to go to Ancient Dragon Man, but I'm going to do him with hand-to-hand only. So if Aggie does put this pressure on for the Dragons, ADEF, you know, has a chance to contest that or has a chance to pivot over to the Death Knight instead.
And here we have it. Cold hand-to-hand action coming in here for ADEF, going also towards Ancient Dragon Man. So, yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how they're going to be progressing the board. I think covering the hand-to-hand with an Ancient Dragon Man kill is a really cool idea because, especially with this square specifically, you don't know which boss he killed. You only know that Dane is dead, and then maybe Idrid is dead. That's probably a good guess. Maybe Ancient Dragon Man is also a good guess here, but you're not entirely sure, right? So
yeah, so I really like this play from ADEF. As we can see, Aggie is ahead by 4 squares at the moment, which is a very, very large, but by no means insurmountable lead. So yeah, ADEF having to make some perhaps sneaky plays here, perhaps go for a little more synergy than you might normally go for, whereas Aggie can kind of go 1 square at a time if he wants. He doesn't have to set up for like, oh, I need to get this into this into this, he can just say, well, I'll just get this one, and I'll just get this one, and I'll just get this one. And, after 5 more squares, Aggie would win, whereas ADEF needs an entire 9 more.
I do think it's a little bit risky to grab hand-to-hand and then go all the way to Ancient Dragon Man. If you are feeling like that is contested, trying to leave that open for such a long time where you're traveling and going to a boss that maybe, it does help with map progression, but maybe is a little too far out of the way, is definitely a risky move. But in this case, it's definitely a good call for ADEF.
Yeah, I think you have to play risky. When you're behind by 4 squares, if you were behind by 1 square, no need to play risky. You're behind by 4 squares, you have to play risky. So I personally love this play from ADEF. With the information he has, I think he says, hey, I need synergy. I need to do this.
Really nice fight here.
Oh my God, Aggie.
From Aggie.
What was that fight?
Using that blind spot really to stagger Ancient Dragon Man from healing a single time. That was really, really, really nice. Also, good RNG. Gets 2 of the transformation moves and is like, you know what? I'm going to cancel that one. I'm going to cancel this one. I'm going to keep using blind spot to really make sure that you can't heal. And that was a no flask Ancient Dragon Man. So that was a very quick kill here.
I looked away for a second and I looked back and it was, Ancient Dragon Man's health is at 0. Huh, that's strange.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be kind of, I think if Aggie does grab Florisax here and then goes for the Furnace Golem, that could be interesting, because then you're like, okay, is it row 2 or is it column 2? I can't tell, because either it's the dragons with Bale and Egon, or it's the Death Knight and the Aged One Exaltation. Those are 2 completely opposite directions on the board. And that would be very interesting as well, like building that pressure.
Yeah, Aggie just has so much pressure to build, and ADEF cannot possibly pressure any lines. So, Aggie building up this slow lead that is snowballing into, it seems like, a bigger and bigger one. Aggie has marked the last 3 squares that have been marked in a row. Before that, they were basically even, but Aggie pulling away with it. ADEF will finally get his revenge square right here, it looks like, with hand-to-hand, but might be a little bit too little too late for him.
It is definitely a little tough here for Aggie to kind of play around. This is the same thing with the Tom match, where Aggie had a really strong early game / mid game, but now ADEF hasn't marked anything in what seems to be 15, 16 minutes now. So it's still really hard for Aggie to be like, okay, what exactly is being worked on? Because I can't really tell anymore. It could be Egon and Bale. It could be, just having a bunch of access and killing Ancient Dragon Man and Gaius without really progressing anything on the board. He doesn't really know.
Yeah. But, I mean, he has to know pretty much that something must have happened with ADEF. He knows ADEF can't be sneaking a line because there is no lines left. So he has to know that, whatever it is that ADEF is doing maybe has not quite worked out for him. Aggie might be thinking, oh, I sniped him on this, or I sniped him on something else. But, he has to know that he doesn't need to be too worried about anything that ADEF has done just yet. And he'll find out soon enough that it's been working on this hand-to-hand. As soon as ADEF finishes off this Ancient Dragon Man.
Ancient Dragon Man being a bit of a menace here, being really in ADEF's face. I would say here, if you are going to hand-to-hand Ancient Dragon Man, using Palm Blast is way worth it. It is very, very worth it. No Palm Blasting from ADEF here, but does get the Frost proc, going to be getting that hand-to-hand kill that blocks that row 1. So that's at least very, very nice here. A little bit of pressure taken off for ADEF as he gets that kill. Now the question is, does he take those Somber Stones that he bought and go and upgrade Dragon Katana? That way he doesn't necessarily waste money and can go for dragon kills.
He certainly could. The Egon into Bale play is certainly possible, but in ADEF's position, it's not something that I would do because they are still fairly long squares to do, and you've got a lot of ground to make up. But Aggie is going for them for that pressure of column 2, saying, hey, now you're going to need to do the Death Knight, which is a long, long catacomb to get there. So,
but honestly, the Death Knight would not be a bad call anyways for ADEF, because that would block the column 2 and row 2, which would be a lot more pressure taken away and a lot more majority pushing.
Yes.
So I hope he sees that and actually wants to go for that in this case.
Aggie having a little trouble with these dragons taking some hits, but yeah, he's already down to half of his heals left. So it looks like he's maybe now switching to a bit of a safer play, going for the secondary dragon instead of the main dragon. No, he's kind of just hitting both. He's saying, "I'll take whatever you give me."
Right. Yeah. Whatever moves are coming out.
Yep. And now Adef with the Talia concoction for putting Florisax to sleep is what it looks like he's going to do. Or first going to Specimen Storehouse? What is he up to here? I don't imagine he's going for burning the ceiling tree right away.
I think he's going for Mesmer, possibly Hitless here on a Sword Lance.
Oh, that is not a bad play. I do really like that. Mesmer, definitely one that you can do hitless. He's tough, but, but fair. And he just has to do it very, very well here.
I just don't know if I like that play, though.
Yeah. I think he does have, is that cold on the Sword Lance? Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. That should be a pretty quick kill there then. Once he gets into the Mesmer fight, as long as he can do it hitless.
There it is, though. Aggie going to be marking Egon's furled finger here in just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Summon me.
So, yeah, with that, Adef's got to know that Aggie has priority on Bale, so he probably needs to grab this Grace and pivot to Death Knight and maybe come back immediately after. Oh, he's a little upset about that. I'm a little upset for him. He was opening the door, but he thought he was, oh, I got the Grace. I can warp out. No. He does not have the Grace at Mesmer. He will have to redo that walking section, so he can't be too happy about that. Aggie, though, going for Death Knight. He's trying to make it a race, and Aggie is a lot closer. Aggie already had the Grace nearby. If Aggie gets the Death Knight square, Adef is way too far behind to contest Bale, so Aggie could run away with this, could just win on a line right here if he can get Death Knight first. Wow, I did not expect this to come down to a line, but Aggie just saying, hey, I'm going to put the pressure on. I'm going to try to kind of sneak this from you, and I think it's going to work.
I think this is going to be a column 2 bingo from Aggie. Yeah, he's going to get this Death Knight most likely first, and then he's going to go straight to Bale. And honestly, that is, I think, a really, really good call. From Adef here, if he was like, hey, okay, let me go for Bale now, might not be the worst idea. But obviously, he doesn't know exactly what he's doing. He's probably thinking, hey, Aggie's already got the finger. He's probably going to go for Bale next first and kind of push that column 2. Let me go ahead and do Death Knight to block that. So it is definitely a tough call here. Again, a coin flip situation where you don't really know which one's being prioritized.
Yeah, I think you have to go for Death Knight because, I think going for Bale would involve going through 2 difficult fights and a long running section that Aggie has already done. And you might not even be guaranteed to get that even if you knew for sure that Aggie was going for Death Knight first. You still might not be guaranteed to get Bale first, but you know that if Aggie was going for Bale first, you would definitely get Death Knight before him. So I think this is the safer and smarter play to go for Death Knight first, but unfortunately, the bet is wrong on this one, and Aggie's going to get into Death Knight first, and barring an incident, Aggie's going to have a very, very large, probably insurmountable lead.
Yep. Yeah, so we're going to come down to the Death Knight, which we have seen, though, cause some issues as well. This Death Knight is not very nice. He does have that double, or the good old lightning twin axes that can deal a lot of damage, and has that one move that we saw Adef yesterday get absolutely melted by, which is that lightning circular AoE move. I don't even know what you call that, like lightning flurry, I guess. We'll give it a name.
Yeah. Yeah, that one is just mean. Luckily, though, the axe hitbox of it only does as much as one regular attack. Even though they are infused with lightning, it doesn't get the extra damage of it. So you can often just intentionally take a hit in order to not get one shot by the lightning.
Yeah, that's where that
making
bubble
his way
tier
in
come
here.
in too. But no one, I think, went for a bubble tier. But that ritual shield maybe would be nice.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the, I think it's the Opaline hard tier instead of the bubble tier for continual defense over the whole course of the fight. But Aggie is into the fight here. And got a good backstab, and oh my gosh, the damage he has. He doesn't even need Holy. He's just going with Frost, and it is working out. Huge damage. Here's that play we were talking about.
Okay.
Takes the hit.
Oh, doesn't take the full damage here.
Yeah. He just has to really not get grabbed because the Death Knight would then heal a lot from it. And as long as he doesn't do that, and as long as he doesn't die, he should have this first.
There's that combo.
Oh.
Okay, does get rid
Yep.
or does get out of the last hit there. Gets the backstab, but has to be careful here. Luckily, that backstab does give him enough time to actually heal. Oh, gets the flurry attack here, though. Does dodge most of it. Oh, that was getting a little close. Getting a little close.
Just a few hits left. He's back to full health. Just don't play it greedy, and Aggie will have this. Looks like maybe one more backstab after this, or just a few more attacks. Oh, and a Frost proc. That'll do it.
That'll do. That'll do. There it is. The Death Knight. Adolf shaking his head as he just gets grabbed by the Death Knight, getting the life sucked out of him from the boss and from reading that board as he sees that square being marked.
Yes, now with it being a race for Bale, Aggie already having Egon's finger, Adolf, shaking his head saying, hey, it looks like I won't be winning this particular match, but he can try. He can still either maybe call Aggie's bluff and go somewhere else, which would not work, or maybe try to race Aggie, and there's always a possibility of Bale incidents. Bale, one of the hardest bosses in the entire DLC, makes it a little easier with Egon, but by no means is it guaranteed that you make it to Bale, you're going to kill him.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely a tough spot to be in for sure. And yeah, there's definitely that Bale already from Aggie going all the way there. This is looking like a GG's now. Adolf has to catch up somehow, but he's behind by at least 6 to 7 minutes, having to also kill that Jagged Peak Drake for that Egon's Furled Finger.
Yeah, if Adolf does everything perfectly here, I think we still probably need to see at least 2 deaths from Aggie for Adolf to have a chance of catching up. If not, maybe even 3, because even if Aggie dies once, he is still definitely far ahead.
This is looking for a potential number 4 victory royale for Aggie.
Yeah, dodges those rocks very safely because he just says, hey, I know I'm ahead. I don't need to go the risky path where you just barely dodge the rocks. He just goes way around, and the rest of the way up the mountain is fairly safe as he gets there.
Yep. Definitely a tough position to be in for sure for Adolf. I think some of those deaths on Gaius definitely did not help. Trying to get some of that pressure going. Yeah, it was just a tough situation to be in where you're trying to possibly pivot, but maybe that wasn't the best call. I think that Hefty Pots, even though makes sense because it might be a rushable square, I think was a bit of a bad call compared to how the board was progressing. I don't think Hefty Pots was necessarily a huge pressure point. It doesn't really progress anything. I think that column 3 was already blocked with Dancing Line before he even got the Hefty Pots. Let me just double check here.
I don't necessarily hate any of Adolf's decisions. We were talking through them, and he made a lot of the decisions that I think we would have made in his situation as well. I think just the state of the board, the squares that they ended up having favored Aggie a little bit, and then I think Aggie has also just been a little bit faster. I think decision making has been fine, has been good, even very good on both sides. It's just sometimes it comes down to the execution just a little bit. Sometimes you know what you need to do, but the opponent just gets there a little faster.
Yeah, I think also for the execution, Aggie did not have as many deaths as Adolf did. On top of that, I think he only died once or twice, and that's all that costed him for this match. Adolf here does get knocked off of his horse by a dragon drive-by. And here it is. Can we get a good old Egon here from Aggie as he's entering the Bale fight? Going to be popping up here in just a moment. Chat, where are your Egons at? Show me your Egons. And there he is. Popping on in.
He's got
that's good damage.
Yeah, and because you always have to go through Ancient Dragon Man, you can always have this Dragon Katana for Bale, which I think is Aggie's comfort pick as far as weapons go. So he's just going to be very comfortable with it. Hitting Bale in the head with so many of the attacks. Oh, a little greedy on that charged attack, but it almost still worked for him. And yeah, Aggie taking Bale out very quickly so far, but a long way to go.
Should be able to get some R1s here on the head, and Egon here maybe going to get some nice damage in as well. I do believe when Egon does do the Dragon Roar, that does a lot of poise damage versus Bale.
Yeah,
I've seen it twice
does a
now,
ton.
where if Egon does do the Dragon Roar, that it has staggered during a bingo match. So I do wonder how much it is, because it is insane.
Ooh, Aggie taking some hits, though.
I was low.
Gotta be careful of the fire. The fire is a little weird. It can kind of bounce at you. Ooh! Getting hit as he tries to heal. Luckily, Aggie got the heal off, so it didn't kill him. And finally has time to kind of get his bearings, get back into it, and into phase 2.
And,
Very early for that phase 2, but I think he's okay with that.
Adef here, almost done with a Jagged Peak Drake. Does get a stagger here now. Going to be going for that possible headshot riposte. Goes for a little bit of overhead stance. Does not get the riposte, though. If Aggie does have an
frost
incident
proc,
here,
though.
there might be some time for Adef to catch up.
Yeah. Again, I think it's going to take... It's probably going to take 2 deaths from Aggie, but, you know, that does happen. I have seen, you know, matches with Bale where there are multiple deaths. Because all it takes really is 2 hits from him. Even at a high Skidoo level, Bale is always just about 2 hits away from killing you at any given point.
Oh,
does
there's
finish
the
off the
stagger.
Jagged Peak Drake. But, with this stagger, I think Aggie's got him. I think he takes the riposte. He goes for another big attack here, and it's only going to take, you know, just a couple more hits. And this will be game again.
Wow, that was so much damage just from that one stagger that he was able to pull off. But yeah, there's that almost dead Bale now. Going to go for that fire attack. Egon trying to get some Dragon Claws in there. One more Dragon Moon slash from Aggie. There it is. Bingus on the board. For Aggie, that is victory number 4. Bars. That's right. I wrote that. I said it. Here we go, though. GG's for both players. Really good match showcase. And just really exciting.
Yeah, very, very exciting match. You know, very back and forth in the beginning, and Aggie just ended up pulling away with it with some of those faster squares, some of those faster executions, and a great decision to block all the squares and take his own line.
All right, let's go ahead and move into the post-game interview. 58-45 here for the final match of the day on Saturday. Aggie versus Adef. Aggie walking away with the bingo line on column 2. Let's go ahead and bring in Aggie first here. Aggie, we'll welcome in GG's, good sir, GG's.
Hello, thank you.
Very strong showing here, I think, on this board. A very interesting also approach on the early game. How did you feel about this one? This early game had a lot of early game squares. So I feel like kind of a game of 50-50 coin flips was kind of a situation here to a degree. What was your approach here?
Yeah, so Blessing America in the middle is obviously extremely tempting. I was actually expecting him to not go for it and just assume that I would go for it. I also know the best way to do it, though, is to do the little gravestone climb up by Ancient Dragon Man, and I just haven't practiced that enough to want to bust it out in a game, so I didn't know if Adef was capable of that or not, so I decided, okay, I'm just going to go for DLC Talismans and route it in a way where it gets me to Altus, to be by Dane, to be by Drain the Water, and just kind of get some more map presence that way.
Yeah, and it seemed to work out too, because you're able to kind of work around that center square pretty much, and kind of take away its effectiveness. When it came to the mid to late game here, seeing the synergy with Dancing Lion and the hippos into the corner square, was Calm 2 kind of something you've always been eyeballing, or was maybe Row 2 also a bit of a thing? Because you are a bit of a, I would say, Furnace Golem connoisseur when it comes to the backhand blades. So I was kind of curious if you're eyeballing that as well.
I do love a backhand blade Furnace Golem play. It's honestly shockingly fast. But no, my main game plan here was row 1, column 5, and then once I got Bear Lion Hippo Iris of Grace, I'm like, okay, well, he's gonna block one of those, but I'm really set up pretty well for column 2 as well. So let's just pivot to that unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go ahead and bring in Adif here as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the mid game. Welcome in Adif. GG's, good sir.
GG's, Aggie.
GG's.
GG's, Dom. Hey, no problem, man.
You didn't play, bro. What the fuck are you talking about?
Anyways, Adif here. Strong early game, man. I really like the rushing of the Blessings of America. I think having that early presence was huge. What was the game plan moving forward from the Blessings of America? What was like your thought process? Because you did dabble a little bit in some other early game squares.
Yeah, the game plan was lose, so that went really well. That turned out real nice. Turns out if you tank mid game and late game every match, you lose every match, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Scientists are looking for answers on this. No conclusivity yet, but we'll get there. Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw column 2 right from the start and never blocked it, so that's really the whole story of the match, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I knew column 2 was good. I saw Aggie snipe me by snipe's not the right word. He got to Queeline before me by maybe a minute and a half, and I was like, okay, well, he should probably anticipate a snipe from me on Iris of Grace, so maybe he'll hold it and prioritize other map progression, which is what he did, and I didn't do the thing I should have done, which is go for it, for some unknowable reason. I think if I get that square, this match goes to 13 for sure. Also, I mean, I got hit on Gaius once, which sucks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just sucks so bad. But, you know, what can you do? Yeah, this match for me was the story of, like, early game went really well. As always, my early game, I think, is really strong. And then I just made incredibly brain-dead decisions from minute 10 until end of game. I was like, oh, a weakness in my game is setting up map progression. I should set up more map progression. And then I was like, oh, Hefty Pots has value. No, it doesn't, numbnuts. Anyway.
I'm not trying to point out, you know, any wounds or whatever, but yeah,
No,
I was
you're
definitely
good.
curious about the Hefty Pots there, because at that point, Danceland already kind of blocked that column 3, sorry. And so I was just kind of curious. Like, yeah, at the time, I was like, you kind of rushed that pretty heavily. I was like, okay, maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. Maybe there's like something that you just maybe were thinking that was being rushed, because it is a bit of a rushable square. So I just wanted to, I guess, see that thought process that was going on.
I think the ultimate decision making was based on the premise that I was like, okay, he's not showing that much progress towards column 2. Maybe with such a square majority, he's just hoping to get majority. But that's not how Aggie plays, and I know that, and yet I took none of that knowledge in, because Aggie bingos when he can. And why wouldn't you? You win the game instantly.
Right.
True.
Yeah, I think, you know, Dom, something you said in the last match that I think rang true for this, and not something I really, when you said it, it made me mad, but then in the middle of this game, I was like, wait, he's right. Last game, you said, I think the match with Aggie and Adef is going to be a match, like, it's two different perspectives. Someone who likes to bingo and someone who likes to block. And I was like, man, that's such horse shit. I bingo too. And then I played this game and I was like, oh, fuck, he's right. Like 40 minutes in, I was like, oh, no. But yeah, it is what it is. I didn't really have any incidents, to be honest with you. I just kind of made really bad decisions, but it is what it is.
I mean, I don't, by the way, just a little tangent on that. I don't think the blocking playstyle is necessarily a bad playstyle at all. I think sometimes it can be really, really effective and also throw your opponent off very heavily when they're expecting a more aggressive playstyle and you go for like a scatter shot block method. I think those are not in any way inferior playstyles to like just aggressive bingo line threats at all. It's just a completely different playstyle in general.
No, yeah, I didn't think it was a criticism.
Oh, okay, because you were saying you were mad. I guess I was like,
no, because
okay.
No, because I didn't like the idea that I was being pigeonholed. But
gotcha.
I agree. I think the one issue with blocking mentality and blocking playstyle though is like it's board dependent, whereas rushing a bingo is not board dependent. So I think there are boards in which blocking playstyle is better, but I think more often than not, if you can bingo, it's just better.
Yeah.
And so I think my playstyle was not advantageous on this board, in which, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Aggie, but I would assume there were probably a couple of times during this match where you were like, really, he didn't block me here? And then you just got the square that you were holding on to.
So when you got Hefty Pots, I was on my way to Hippo because I wanted to eliminate all possible bingo for you. So once you marked Hefty Pot, I was like, okay, that seems like a weird pick to me, but I'm fine with this. So
yeah,
that
and I
worked out
even
well, and
I
then-
even prepped Hippo. Like I prepped it and then left to do Hefty Pots. Like I don't know what the decision-making process was, but studies are being done, like I said, so we'll have answers soon.
Yeah, and then with Iris of Grace, I killed the second Queen and then I went for Red Bear, and I'm like, I should definitely be getting Iris of Grace first. If this gets sniped, I'm gonna be so mad at myself. But luckily, I got away with it anyway.
Yeah, I didn't kill either Queen for no reason.
Okay.
I think once you marked Queen and Bellarat, I think pivoting off was the right call for me. I don't think there's a lot of implied value in following you there, especially since I'm fine with you getting Lion stuff because it sets me up for late game faster, and that did happen. But I think once I noticed that you had marked one extra square without getting it, I should have immediately rushed it down, because I would have absolutely beaten you to it. Just bad game sense.
So yeah, there's actually one more question I have here for Aggie, because there is a moment where pretty much Adolf does not mark anything for almost 20 minutes here because he's like working on different things. What was going on, I guess, in your head with that big delay, right? Of like, okay, is this going to be like a huge prep? Like, I guess what was your thought process? Because at some point, players do tend to think of like, okay, if nothing's being marked for 10 to 15 minutes, either it's huge prep or they're multi-prepping other squares. So I was just curious on your thought there when that happened or during that match.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried. I typically only worry about those scenarios if they have like a potential bingo line left, but I kind of prioritized making sure that all of his bingos were blocked before I went for my own. And by that point, I had like a healthy majority lead. So like even if he was cooking something, like with this board, I feel like there's only like a few things that you could tie into each other to be like, 2 or 3 square plays.
Right, yeah.
So I just assumed that there was some sort of snipage going on.
Gotcha. Yeah. It was definitely I think a bit of a tougher board too, because once you did get progression in one area, trying to catch up to the other person was a bit of a tall order sometimes. So trying to get those early map presence locations was definitely a big deal for sure in the situation. But it was still a great match from both you guys. I do think I think Adolf pivoting right after Queen Line was a great call, but I do have to say I think he could have actually sniped Dancing Line if he did progress. After seeing like how the fight went and after seeing some of the damage, I think with the Great Katana
really bad.
versus the backhand blade, I think the Great Katana would have definitely outperformed in that specific situation. But I do think that was definitely the right call though, Adolf. I think that was a smart call, just pivoting out completely and just going like, you know what, let me just progress something else instead. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I also wasn't anticipating him doing Lion right away.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought other progression was more important for him in that moment. That was just a board misread, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think an interesting play I could have done is I knew Aggie would do backhand blades. He's probably the only player in Bingo Brawlers right now that prefers the backhand blades to the katana. I mean, Aggie, correct me if I'm wrong, but you use them almost every match.
I don't know about almost every match, but I do enjoy using them when there's a situation to use them. And Furnace Golem and backhand blade only is like the situation to use them.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, I know he's going to do that. And I had to make a conscious decision of like, do I snipe him on that and go for Dane instead of whatever he's prepping that's longer? Or do I just bank that he knows I'm not doing it and I'll just do something else? And I don't know what the right call is there, but yeah, I knew you would do that. Like that was not surprising to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Still a great match though from both you guys, and it was really cool to see you rush for that center square, Adolf. Like, I'm not.
Was that contested at all?
No.
I did not.
No. Okay, when you got talismans, I was like, yeah, okay. But I will say I skill issued on a couple of the skips, but I think that's about as fast as you can do.
Did you do the ADM?
Yeah. Yeah, I did ADM route, and I didn't get any graces except for just pre-TLA skip. That's the only grace I got.
Now I was gonna say, I
and
was
even
gonna-
then,
fighting you a little bit because you had
Yeah.
to go back
Yeah.
through a lot of that area.
Exactly, yeah. I probably could have grabbed an extra one, but I was sure we would race on that just because of center square position. Yeah. I skill issued a little bit on some of the jumps, like I said, but you probably can't do it a whole lot faster than that.
I mean, still props to you for pushing that though, instead of just like automatically kind of like forfeiting that and being like, yeah, I might not be, you know, fast enough or whatever to even go for it, but still just like I think that was still a great call, like going for that center square. Because I feel like a
Nice.
lot of people would just immediately just like default and be like, no, I don't think I can, you know, compete in speed in this regard. I'm just not going to do it. It's just way too risky. And you actually like making that risky call and pushing it, I think it was a huge thing. So props to you for that for sure.
If Season 3 is any indication, basically the only thing I have over other players is collection squares. So just channeling being Chris's bitch for a moment. I just had to channel that mindset and be like, oh, I can beat anybody to a collection square. I just have to have Chris yell at me in my mind, and then I can do it.
True. A little bit of Chris yelling goes far. But GG's to both you guys. GG's Aggie getting that 4th victory now, 4-1 record. Gonna be moving up into the top spots here. ADF I think currently 2-3 though, but you have still 4 more matches to solidify the leaderboard for yourself as well. So you guys you know, got a lot of leg room to work with, which is great.
I think I'm 4-2.
4-2?
Yeah,
oh
4-2.
shit, you already had 6 matches.
Yep,
Damn.
yep.
God damn.
Yep.
I
I think
think-
he's just taking all of the matches from everyone else, hogging them for himself.
What can
I
say?
think I can't. Obviously, it's hard to say definitively this early, but I would have to imagine you have to win at least 5, probably 6 to clinch top 3.
Well, most
I would
likely
imagine,
I think
yeah.
that's accurate.
most likely it will be adjusted to top 4. So
Top 4.
go!
Okay.
most
Well,
likely it will be adjusted.
The
So
best news all day.
then maybe I
that
do
news.
have a fucking chance.
yeah, I think top 4 is fair as long as the schedule really allows it and the players are okay with it. The initial was top 3 because it always has been top 3, but with it being 10 players, I think top 4 would be fine. So I just have to like run it through the schedule first, and then run it through the players, and then yeah, we'll probably be like an official change. But yeah,
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. But with that being said, though, guys, GG's, man. Thanks for playing today. Are you guys playing tomorrow? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I am.
Yeah. So you guys don't play until next week. But that is still sick, as you guys are going to be facing 8F versus Chris, and then Aggie versus Bushy.
Great.
So those are going to be really fun
Great.
matches to see, and I wish you guys best of luck on those matches. But yeah, any closing words before I send you guys out for the day?
No, just thanks for having us as always.
Yeah,
Always
yeah.
blessed.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. Thanks for being here, and thanks for playing. I hope you see you guys soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.